The Black Dahlia Murder, Chapter 1. The Girl in the City of Angels, the morning of January 15th, 1947. Dawned cold over Los Angeles, a city that glittered with dreams, but reeked of decay beneath the surface. At 10:30 a.m., a woman walking along South Norton Avenue noticed something unusual in an empty lot, something pale, almost luminous, lying in the grass. At first, she thought it was a mannequin, discarded after a store display. But as she drew closer, she screamed. It was no mannequin. It was the body of a young woman, cut in half, her face mutilated with a grotesque precision that spoke of madness or mastery. The newspapers would call her Elizabeth Short, but the world would remember her by another name: the Black Dahlia. Detective Harry Hansen of the LAPD arrived at the scene minutes later. Even for a man hardened by war and years on the force, what he saw chilled him. The body was clean, surgically drained of blood, arranged deliberately. There was not a drop of blood on the ground. Whoever had done this had done it elsewhere. "Find me who she was," Hansen muttered to his partner. "Find me who could hate beauty this much." That night, as the city lights flickered to life, the story of the Black Dahlia exploded across every newspaper, every diner counter, every whispered conversation, and somewhere, in the shadows of Los Angeles, the killer read those same headlines and smiled. Chapter 2. The face behind the name. The autopsy revealed what the city already feared. Whoever had killed Elizabeth Short had done so with the precision of a surgeon and the cruelty of an artist. The cuts were clean, deliberate. No hesitation, no mercy. The newspapers, desperate for sensation, christened her the Black Dahlia. It was a name born from a morbid fascination, a play on the Blue Dahlia, a film noir hit of the time, and Elizabeth's love for black dresses and dark curls. Overnight, she became both victim and legend. Detectives Harry Hansen and Finis Brown worked tirelessly. They traced Elizabeth's last known days through cheap hotel rooms, dim bars, and shadowed alleys of Los Angeles. She was always smiling, they said, always chasing something she could never quite reach. Stardom, perhaps, or escape. Born in Boston, 1924, Elizabeth Short came to California with dreams as bright as the Hollywood lights that would never shine for her. She was young, beautiful, and broke, a girl drifting between promises and lies. She wanted to be an actress, but the city had little mercy for dreamers without protection. In the weeks before her death, witnesses placed her with several men, actors, servicemen, a married salesman, each with their own story, each denying any part in her death. But the truth was clear. Elizabeth was moving through a city of predators, and one of them had found her. The detectives received letters, taunting, cruel, written in cut-out newspaper letters, each signed the Black Dahlia Avenger. Some contained details that only the killer could have known. Others included her personal belongings, mailed directly to the Los Angeles Examiner. The press turned her into a symbol, a tragic beauty in death. The police turned every stone, questioned hundreds, followed leads that went nowhere, and still, Los Angeles buzzed with whispers. They said she had been involved in something dark, blackmail, espionage, or Hollywood's underworld of lust and power. But Hansen knew better. He'd seen this before, not in Hollywood, but in human nature itself. Monsters, he muttered, staring at the crime photos. They don't always hide under beds. Sometimes they wear a smile. That night, under the glowing street lamps of the city, Elizabeth Short's story began to twist into legend, a name whispered in every diner, every bar, every restless dreamer's mind. The Black Dahlia had become more than a woman. She was now a ghost in the City of Angels. Asterisk, asterisk, Chapter 3. Shadows of Hollywood. The city never slept at night. Los Angeles shimmered, not with stars, but with secrets. Behind every glowing billboard was a lie, and behind every beautiful face, a mask. Detectives Hansen and Brown followed the trail into the heart of Hollywood, a place where everyone played a role, even off the stage. They began with the last man seen with Elizabeth Short, Robert Red Manley, a salesman who admitted to driving her from San Diego to Los Angeles just days before she vanished. Manley swore he'd left her safely at the Biltmore Hotel, where she planned to meet her sister. That was the last confirmed sighting. The next time anyone saw Elizabeth, she was in pieces. The detectives questioned everyone: bellboys, waitresses, actresses, and drifters. Each offered fragments of a story. She was always waiting for a phone call, one said. She said a man promised her a screen test. Another whispered, the Hollywood dream that was the hook. Dozens of young women came chasing it. Some vanished quietly. But Elizabeth's death was too brutal to be ignored. Hansen's gut told him the killer wasn't random. Someone knew her, maybe even loved her, or worse. Someone wanted to own her. Then came the photos. Dozens of studio shots found in Elizabeth's belongings, her smiling, laughing, eyes full of light. But a few were different, darker, private, taken by someone she trusted. Who was behind the camera? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she'd been mixed up with Hollywood's underground parties, where producers, actors, and politicians mingled behind locked doors. Others whispered of a medical student with a fascination for anatomy. And there was even talk of a doctor, a man of influence, with surgical skill and dangerous desires. One anonymous letter arrived at the police station, typed neatly, "You will never catch me. The Black Dahlia meant something to me. She will not be the last." Hansen crumpled the paper, rage simmering beneath his calm. He'd seen sadists before, killers who wanted fame. But this one was different. He wasn't hiding. He was performing. Outside, the neon lights buzzed over a city built on illusion. And somewhere among the sound stages and smoke, Elizabeth's ghost watched a silent reminder that in Hollywood, dreams could kill. Asterisk, asterisk, Chapter 4. The Letters and the Lies, 2 days after the body was found. The Los Angeles Examiner received a strange package. It was neatly wrapped in brown paper, sealed with care, too much care. Inside were Elizabeth Short's birth certificate, social security card, and a small address book with several pages torn out, and a note typed on white paper. "Here are her belongings. I'll give you more soon. Black Dahlia, Avenger." The newsroom froze. Reporters gathered like vultures around the editor's desk. Someone whispered, "He's playing with us." Someone else said, "He wants an audience." Detective Hansen arrived minutes later. He lifted the items one by one, each piece a breadcrumb left by a mind that wanted to be followed, but not caught. The killer had wiped the evidence clean with gasoline. No fingerprints, no traces. Just the ghost of a woman and the arrogance of a man who believed he was smarter than everyone else. As the investigation deepened, the letters kept coming. Some were taunts. Others were confessions wrapped in riddles. One read, "Turn your eyes to the hills. There lies your answer." The LAPD combed through the Hollywood Hills for days. Nothing. But Hansen began to see a pattern. Every letter was postmarked from a different district, each time closer to downtown Los Angeles. The killer was circling them, like a predator toying with its prey. Meanwhile, the press had turned the case into a feeding frenzy. They named her the Black Dahlia, inspired by her dark clothes and rumored love for the film The Blue Dahlia. Overnight, Elizabeth Short became a legend, a symbol of danger and desire. But Hansen hated it. She was a person, he muttered, lighting another cigarette. Not a headline. One evening, he and Brown followed a lead to a small art studio in Leimert Park. The owner, George Hodel, was a doctor, intelligent, charming, unsettlingly calm. His office walls were lined with photographs of women, their bodies twisted into poses that were more anatomical than artistic. "Did you know Elizabeth Short?" Hansen asked. Dr. Hodel smiled faintly. "I knew many women, detective. Some better than others." There was something cold in his eyes. Something that watched people not as souls, but as shapes. And in that moment, Hansen felt it, a chill that ran down his spine. This man could dissect you without blinking. Still, without hard evidence, they couldn't touch him. Hollywood had friends in high places, and Hodel was among them. The file was marked ongoing. The trail went dark, but the letters didn't stop. They grew angrier, more personal, filled with cryptic warnings. "The truth lies in the mirror, detective. But you'll never like what you see." Late one night, Hansen returned to his apartment. Under the door, an envelope waited. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Elizabeth Short, smiling, her reflection visible in a mirror behind her. And standing in that reflection, barely visible, was a man in a doctor's coat. Chapter 5. The House on Franklin Avenue. It was late afternoon when Detective Hansen drove down Franklin Avenue, the sun bleeding into the smog, the city glowing a sickly gold. The address came from a forgotten witness, a maid who once worked for Dr. George Hodel. She had vanished soon after giving her statement. The house stood alone, cloaked by high hedges and whispering palms. A relic of Spanish architecture, elegant yet ominous, like a cathedral for ghosts. Hansen and Brown stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of old wood, dust, and something faintly metallic like dried blood. Every sound echoed. Their flashlights cut through darkness, revealing rooms frozen in time. Velvet drapes, marble floors, a grand piano coated in dust, and on the wall, photographs, not ordinary portraits. These were dissected bodies, rendered in artistic poses, black and white prints that glowed eerily in the beam of light. In the corner of one, faint initials, G.H., Jesus. Brown muttered. He wasn't just a doctor, he was a collector. Then Hansen found a door half hidden behind a curtain. It led to a basement, cold, silent, the air thick like a tomb. He switched on the light and froze. The concrete floor was stained faintly, but unmistakably, with something that had seeped deep over time. There were surgical tables, rusted instruments, jars filled with preserved specimens. And in the corner, a photograph of Elizabeth Short, her smile bright against the shadow of the wall. Pinned beside it was a page from a newspaper. Black Dahlia found mutilated in vacant lot scrawled across it in red ink. Art is pain. Pain is perfection. Brown swallowed hard. Hansen. We need a warrant. But Hansen knew it wouldn't matter. By the time they returned, the evidence would vanish. This man had protection, lawyers, money, and friends in high offices. Still, something inside Hansen refused to stop. He searched the basement again, and under a loose tile, he found a reel of 8mm film. No label, just a faint smell of chemicals. That night, they brought it to the station. The projector whirred, the film crackled, and there she was, Elizabeth Short, alive, walking, laughing nervously in front of the camera. Then, she looked behind her, as if sensing someone watching. The camera shook. The image blurred, and then it cut to black. Hansen sat frozen in silence. The room felt colder. He knew this wasn't just evidence, it was a confession. But when he reached for the reel the next morning, it was gone. Someone had entered the evidence room. No signs of forced entry, just gone. The department shut down the lead. Orders came from above. Drop the hodl case. Hansen argued, shouted, but it was over. Hollywood had buried another secret, and the walls of the house on Franklin Avenue kept their silence. Asterisk, Chapter 6. The silence of the city, Los Angeles, moved on. The lights never dimmed. The parties never stopped. But for Detective Hansen, the city had gone quiet. Eerily quiet. He walked its streets long after midnight. Cigarette smoke curling through the fog like ghosts whispering secrets. Every alley felt familiar now. Every shadow seemed to hold her face. Elizabeth Short, forever smiling in his mind, forever trapped in the reel of that cursed film. The department had moved on to... The Black Dahlia case was suspended, officially unsolved, unofficially buried. Brown was transferred to another division. Hansen stayed behind, buried in paperwork he no longer read. Sometimes, when he looked at the caseboard, the strings, the photographs, the evidence that led nowhere, he wondered if they'd ever been chasing a man at all, or just a ghost that the city itself had conjured. Then came the dreams. He would wake at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, hearing her laughter echoing through the hall, soft, broken, almost teasing. Sometimes he'd see her standing by the window, her reflection faint in the glass, and just before she vanished, she'd whisper, "You saw the truth, and you turned away." He started drinking more. The bourbon burned less each night, and soon it stopped burning at all. One evening, Hansen found himself parked outside the Hoddle mansion again. The house was dark, silent, but the front gate was open, as if it had been expecting him. He stepped inside. The moonlight fell through the palms, drawing pale scars across the floor. Everything was as before: the piano, the photographs, the smell of something that refused to die, and then, faintly, a sound, music, the same tune that had played in the background of the reel. A woman humming softly. Hansen froze. It wasn't possible. The film was gone. But the sound came from the basement. He descended slowly, revolver trembling in his hand. The air grew colder, heavier, and in the dark a figure moved. It was a woman dressed in black, long hair falling over her face. She turned. For a heartbeat, he swore it was Elizabeth. Her skin pale as wax, her smile gentle but wrong, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You came back," she whispered. "You shouldn't have." Hansen stumbled back. The figure was gone. Only the echo of her voice remained, lingering like smoke. He ran out of the house into the night air, breath ragged, heart hammering. The city stretched before him. endless and bright, yet all he could see was the shadow of one woman who refused to fade. That night, Hansen filed his resignation. He left the badge, the gun, the case files, everything. But as he closed his office door for the last time, he saw something waiting on his desk. An envelope. No stamp, no address, inside, a single photograph. The same one that vanished from evidence weeks ago, Elizabeth Short. Smiling into the camera, reflection behind her, blurred. But now, there was something new written at the bottom, in red ink. The city forgets. I don't. Hansen stared for a long time, the words sinking deep like a blade. Outside, Los Angeles glowed loud, alive, and indifferent. The case was over, but the silence had only just begun. Asterisk, asterisk, Chapter 7. Echoes in the dark. 10 years later, Los Angeles was louder than ever. Neon lights, jazz clubs, Hollywood dreams. A city pretending it had forgotten its sins. But the dead never really leave. They linger, waiting for someone foolish enough to listen. And one night, Detective Hansen heard them again. He was no longer a detective, just an old man running a pawn shop on Melrose, selling the remnants of people's lives. Watches, rings, cameras, each with its own quiet ghost. The city had aged, but the smell of rain on concrete was still the same. Then came the envelope. No name, no address. Just the words, "Do you still remember her?" Inside a film reel, Hansen's hands trembled as he loaded it into the old projector in the back room. The film flickered to life, painting the walls with pale ghosts. It was the same as before, the woman's laughter, the camera's trembling gaze. But then, the reel kept going. New footage. A man standing in the shadows. A reflection in the mirror behind Elizabeth Short. His face half hidden, but unmistakable. Hansen's breath caught. He leaned closer. It was George Hodel. The realization hit him like a bullet. The man who had hosted the city's richest, the doctor with a genius mind and a monster's heart, he was there. And the reel, the photographs, the whispers, all of it had been his theater. But why send it now? Why, after all these years? Hansen felt something shift behind him. A shadow against the wall. He turned, nothing. Then, faintly, a woman's voice. "You see now, don't you?" He froze. Her reflection shimmered faintly in the projector light. Elizabeth. Her smile soft, tragic. Her eyes pleading. "Don't let him be forgotten." The film snapped. The room fell silent. Only the hum of the projector remained, spinning endlessly without an image. That night, Hansen went to the police. He brought the reel, the photo, the envelope, everything. But the officers barely listened. "That case is dead, sir," one of them said. "We've moved on." Hansen smiled faintly. He'd heard that before when he stepped outside. The city greeted him with its familiar chaos, the laughter, the cars, the endless lights. But beneath it all, he could hear something else, a hum, faint, melancholic, the same tune that haunted him all those years ago. He followed it through the streets, past theaters, motels, neon diners, until he reached a small alley behind Hollywood Boulevard. The sound stopped. On the wall, someone had scrawled words in red paint, "The dahlia blooms again." He stood there for a long time, rain soaking through his coat, until the words began to blur. Maybe it was the city's cruel joke. Maybe it was something else. When morning came, Hansen was gone. His shop stood empty. door unlocked, projector still spinning. All that remained was a single photograph on the counter, Elizabeth Short, smiling, holding a Black Dahlia in her hand. On the back, in Hanson's handwriting, "Some truths aren't meant to be solved, only remembered."